Today's Brownback session, we have a topic on, create your first ADF pipeline by our colleague Lokesh Sharma, right? So just to give you a small background about Lokesh Sharma, I'm sure you would have already gone through the mailer, which clearly talks about this overall experience and his certifications. Lokesh Sharma comes with a 12 years of experience in the core Microsoft technology, and he's a certified Azure data engineer, and he has also done his Microsoft Certified Professional Certification in SQL 2008, along with Business Intelligence Development and Maintenance, right? And he has also got good exposure and experience in domains like banking and finance, marketing and retail. So today we are going to hear Lokesh on the session on the topic that he has chosen, create your first ADF pipeline. So I mean, let just as usual, like what we follow, that we go through the session, and at the end we can take the Q&A. All right. So thank you very much, guys. Lokesh, over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Satya. Thank you, Shiva, as well. So yeah, so let's get started. So let me share my screen first, and just give a thumbs up when if you can see my screen. Can you all see my screen?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So thanks everyone for joining today's session. And as Satya said, I hope you and your immediate circle is staying safe and doing good. So it's crazy times. So we'll be discussing about the ADF. So as the topic suggests, it will be a purely hands-on session. So the idea would be to get you a feel of how the ADF pipeline works. How can we get started with the ADF pipelines? And if you talk about personally, I have been working on this ADF pipeline tool for past 4 or 5 months, and I found it very interesting. So I hope that you get a value out of this session. And as always, after this session, if you have any doubts, any queries, you can directly ping to me, and will be most likely to help you, and most pleased to help you guys. So let's get started. So setting out the agenda for today, we'll be discussing about some of the building blocks in a pipeline, the things that or objects that make up a pipeline. Then obviously we'll start creating our first pipeline. We'll see how we can monitor a pipeline. And if time permits at the end, I will give you a glimpse of a new service that has been introduced by Microsoft in the last year, which is known as Azure Synapse Analytics Workspace Preview. So we can create a pipeline using this service as well. And at the end, we'll wrap it up with some of the takeaways. I'll share some of the Udemy tutorials and share some of the interesting facts about the data load we performed in Publicis. So that is the project that I've worked on. That is the project I got exposure to the ADF tool or creating the pipelines. So let's jump into it straight away. So first of all, what is ADF? So ADF is, in simple terms, is a platform as a service. It's a cloud-based ETL or ELT tool. So if you have worked on any of the on-premise ETL tool, for example, SSIS, I would say the transition to ADF would be much easier, as it was for me. But if you haven't worked on any of the ETL tools, even then I think you will be able to understand the basic concepts. There is no coding experience required. It's all drag and drop. And I think Microsoft has done a good job as far as the intuitiveness or the user friendliness is concerned. And ADF is only responsible for orchestrating and automating the data movement and transformation. What it basically means is it's not a place where you will store the data. It will just direct the data from sources to the destinations, or if you want to apply some transformations on top of your data. So that's that. Now let's look at the things that make up an ADF pipeline. So at the highest level, you have a pipeline which is similar to the package in SSIS realm or SSIS world. And under pipelines, you have a lot of activities which perform various actions. Now it's up to you whether you want to run these actions or activities parallelly or sequentially based on the requirement. So it's all up to you. And then at the end, as far as execution is concerned, you have something called trigger. You can trigger the pipeline on ad hoc basis, or you can schedule the trigger based on the requirements. Moving on. So there is important concept of integration runtime. I personally found, difficult to comprehend this particular term. So I had to look around various articles. So in simple terms, what it means is it means that it's the compute infrastructure provided by Microsoft or ADF, which is used to run the pipeline or the activities inside the pipeline. In simple language, you can say it's an hardware that is required to run your pipelines or activities. So this hardware can be classified into three different categories. So based on the data that you're playing around with. So what happens in ADF most of the times, or mostly, you will be playing around with the data. Now this data can reside over the cloud, that is the public network, or it can reside in a private domain or self-hosted domain. So similarly, you have Azure IR, which basically means that Microsoft or Azure will give you the hardware to handle the computation part of it. But if the data resides on a self-hosted network, that means that the self-hosted network will be responsible for the computation part, and it will help the ADF tool or ADF pipeline to do the computation for it. And at the end, we have something called Azure SSIS as well, which is nothing but, as the name suggests, is nothing but a way to lift and shift your SSIS packages. So if you have your SSIS packages, you can run those packages with the help of Azure ADF with this IR. And then you have something called link service. Again, in simple terms, link service is nothing but your connection string. So as I told, ADF always deal with the data, so you need to specify the connection string for that. And at the end of the spectrum, you have something called data set. Now, data set, in simple terms, could be a file, or it could be a table, or it could be a folder where all the files are stored. So now that we have discussed some of the basic concepts, I would like to start the hands-on, because I think that is more important if you want to run any tool. So the requirement that we have right now is pretty simple. The pipeline that we'll be designing on is pretty simple. We have a CSV pipeline, CSV file stored in my local machine or self-hosted machine. And we want to transfer the data, or we want to move the data from this CSV file into a table which is on the cloud. That is Azure database. So let's see how it's done. So before I do that, any questions so far as the building blocks or the objects that made up a pipeline is concerned? Okay, so I'll take it as no. So let's get started. So first of all, I'm just trying to connect to the SSMS, the Azure SQL database or the table, so that we can get to know the structure of the table. So let me do that. And at the same time, let's open the source file as well, because when the transfer is done, the data is done, we want to know whether it was successful or not. So this is our source file, movies DB. And if you open it, I think it has around 10 records. Yeah, so it has 9 records with the header in it. So we'll see how we can transfer this data to a table inside your SQL Azure database. So let's close this out. And I think we have got the connection to SSMS. And the database that we'll be working with is Independence Works. So, and the target table that we'll be using is movie. So right now, I think you can see that the table is empty. So yeah, so we have seen the file, we have seen the target table. Now it's time to create our first pipeline. So obviously you will need a Azure subscription. So I think that is where things become tricky, because most of the times we would have already used or exhausted our free resources. So you can always create a new email address, and you can always create a new subscription. And I think they give you around 13K rupees for the first month. And for the practical that we are doing, we can easily do that with that much amount of money. So we'll go into the all resources first. Before doing that, I think let's take it right from the scratch. So this is the home page, the portal that comes up. So what we want to do is we want to provision a Data Factories account. So we will we'll just type in the factories or just FACT in the search box on the top, and the data factories will come up. So we just click on that. So I've already provisioned an account called Brown Bag DF, but I'll show you the steps that are required in order to provision it from the scratch. So you just need to click on Add, and it will bring up a new window. So these are just usual normal steps that are required to provision any of the Azure resources or the services. You have to choose your subscription, you have to provide the resource group, and there is nothing special in that. Only thing that is a little different in this case is this GIT configuration. So this basically means that once you have done your development work, where do you want to save that work? So we have you all must be aware of a website called GitHub. So if you want to save our work into that portal or into that website, you can use that. But if you're creating your first pipeline, I would recommend to tick it. So tick this checkbox so that we can create it later on. So once you do that, you will have an account registered. So this is the home page when you click on the resource that you provisioned. And so for the first pipeline, don't worry about all these things. We will just try to keep it simple. So the place where we want to go or where we are interested is this author and monitor. So you just need to click on that. So it will bring up a kind of online portal where you can create your pipelines, or if you compare it with the on-premise tools, it's an IDE where you can create your pipelines. So on the home page, you will find various options. And basically, these are the templates that will guide you in creating the pipeline, especially if you don't have much experience working with the ADF tool. But in this case, since we want to know the various objects in a pipeline, what are the various objects and their functions, we will try to create from the scratch. So for that, you will have to click on this author tab. And apart from author tab, you have a monitor as well as a manage tab as well. So we will see how these tab works as we move along. So here you go, guys. This is the tab where we'll start creating our first pipeline. This is the canvas, and we will drag and drop objects here, and that will lead to ultimately creating a pipeline. So let's create the pipeline first. So we'll click on this plus icon here, and just need to click on pipeline. And let's give it a name as first pipeline. And so there are various options, and the important one that you see here is this small vertical tab. It's called activities. So here what you have is all the activities or the actions that are classified into different categories. And most widely used ones are, I think the ones that I've used mostly are copy data and data flow, because these will help the transformation and the movement of the data. Then you have some various other bunch of activities that are related to doing some analysis on big data as well. So you have Databricks as well. And another one, another useful classification or category is this general tab, where you will find some of the activities that are widely used. For example, the store procedure, get metadata. So for the first pipeline, as we want to keep the things simple, we are really not interested in these activities. So we will just be interested in moving the data from the source to the destination. So that's why we are using the copy data for this. So it's just drag and drop. Once you drag the activity onto the canvas, you can rename it. So let's give it a name as local to SQL. So now so what we have done is we have created a pipeline. We have, dragged a copy data activity. Now it's time for us to configure the source and the destination. And as far as ADF is concerned, the destination is given a different terminology, which is sink. So we just have to be aware of this, especially when you are coming from an on-premise ETL tool like SSIS. So let's try to configure the source and the sink here. Now, if you remember the PPT that we discussed initially, let me just go to that. Where is it? Yeah, so if you remember this, it says that dataset should have a linked service and linked service should have an integration runtime. So we will try to see this process in practical now. So we'll go to the pipeline again. So now we are creating the source, we are configuring the source, and it is asking for the dataset. We'll create a new dataset. And this is the place, I think, where ADF has been quite famous because it supports plethora of data sources. You can see you have Azure options, you have database options, file options. So there are a lot of data choices as far as data sources is concerned. And I think that is where, it's quite powerful as a tool. So what we are concerned in this particular practical is on the file system, because the file is stored in our local machine. So we'll click on the file system, then click on continue. And then you have an option of choosing any file out of the options that are given here. So we are only concerned with the CSV delimited file. So we'll select that. And then you can give it a different name. So this is the dataset name. So we will say delimited text source. Now see this option of linked service. So this dataset is asking for a linked service, which is the connection string. So in this linked service, we will have to specify the credentials for this local machine, my local machine. So we'll see how that is done, and we'll create a linked service from beginning, and let's give it a name as file server linked service. You can specify the description here. Again, remember that diagram. So now it is asking for the integration runtime. So you have to remember this auto resolve integration runtime is your Azure integration runtime that comes as a default with every pipeline which Microsoft or the Azure provides us by default. So if you want to communicate with the data that is stored on any of the clouds or the public networks, you can use this auto resolve integration runtime. But since this is the source and we want to configure it or connect it to the local machine, we will have to use a self-hosted integration runtime. Now, the steps involved in self-hosted integration runtime are a little tedious in the sense that they take around 5 to 10 minutes. So I'll guide you how to do that. But for the time being, we will use the self-hosted integration runtime that I have already created. So what if you want to create it from the scratch? You have to click on New, and it will give you the options whether you want to go for Azure or self-hosted. And there is a linked self-hosted as well. So it's a kind of an advanced concept. So let's leave it for now. And we'll select the self-hosted one here, then click on continue. And let's give it a name as sample. And you can see that the type is already, it has already taken the type as self-hosted. Then we'll click on create. Now this is where it mostly takes time, around 5 to 10 minutes. So you have two options here. You either can create the self-hosted integration runtime manually. So before doing that, let me take a step back. So what we are trying to do right now is we want the ADF to use the hardware of this local machine to do the computation for us as far as getting the data from source file is concerned. Because the source file is in the private network, is in my local machine. So we would have to install some service so that service communicates with the ADF cloud tool. So for that purpose, we have to do this installation. So the most recommended installation is the Express setup. So in this installation, you don't have to do anything. You just have to click on this hyperlink, and it will download an exe file for you. And you just have to run that exe file, and it will install a service on your local machine. I'll give you a little screenshot of how this looks like. I think I might have saved it. So yeah, so this is the one. So once you run the exe, you will get a message like this. There are the various steps involved in installing the self-hosted integration runtime service. And once it is done, it will show up as a service on your desktop. So let me open that So let me open that and show it to you how it looks like. Yeah, so this is how it looks like. So you can clearly see that by the message here, it says that self-hosted node is connected to the cloud service. So what is self-hosted node? Self-hosted node is my local machine. In other cases, it could be a private network as well. So it means that the service is running fine. And it's a service. In simple words, it's a service. You can stop the service, or you can stop and then start based on your choice. So this was kind of an important concept as far as creating pipelines is concerned. So as I said, I already have created a self-hosted IR, so I will not go to the steps here. So we'll close this. And then you have to choose the one that I've already created, the self-hosted IR. I've chosen that. Now it comes the place where you have to specify the path where your file is stored. So we'll again go back to the folder. And important thing here to do is you have to first enable the folder where the file is stored as a shared folder. So you can go to the properties and enable the sharing. And this is the network path where the file is stored. So we will copy this path. We'll copy this and go back to the online portal and then paste it here under the host option. Then it is asking for the username and the password. This is nothing but the username and the password for my local machine. So let me just type in that as well. And we'll type in the password now. So it's always good to test the connection. So let's try and test the connection, whether it's a success or not. So you see the connection has been successfully tested or established. So let's try to create this linked service. So you don't have to explicitly create linked service or integration at runtime. The tool itself is asking you or helping you to create it. So we have the dataset now, we have the linked service now. Now there are some other options as well. So there can be a requirement to extract the data from a group of files which is stored under a particular folder. In that case, you would not have to specify the file name. But in our case, we have a single file. So we will just select that file. So our file is moviesdb, and then click on OK. Then comes the option of first row as header. It's also one of the useful properties, especially when the source file doesn't have a header in it. So, but in our case, we have a header. So we will tick this checkbox. And then there is an option of import schema. So what it means is, from where do you want the ADF engine to get the schema? In our case, we want to establish the schema from the file itself. So we will choose this option from connection store. If the schema is stored in a separate file, you can choose this option. So we will, this is the default option. I think, I'm not sure whether this is a default option or not, but you can choose this. Then click on OK. I think it might have been a default option. So now, as far as configuring the copy data activity is concerned, you have configured the source. So this is how the source looks like. And you can open the source data set from here. And you can find out the various properties. So it has taken the column delimiter as comma because we have selected the CSV delimiter file. And there are some other options as well. And you can see the schema here as well, that it has taken. So since it's a CSV file, it has taken all the columns as of string type. Then we'll go into the first pipeline again. So this is how the source looks. Again, for the first pipeline, we are really not concerned about all the other properties here. I mean, if there is an advanced session after this, if we have the advanced session, maybe we can cover that. But for the time being, let's leave the properties to its default values. Then comes the part we want to set up or configure the sink. So if you remember, the sink is your SQL Azure database. So we'll configure that and see how it works. So again, you'll have 3 steps involved in this. create a data set. Data set will ask for a linked service, and then linked service will further ask for a integration runtime. So let's see how it's done. So we'll click on new. Now we have to choose an option of Azure SQL Database. We'll click on that, and let's give it a separate name. And again, it's asking for the linked service. We'll create a new linked service and just give it a suffix or prefix as linked service. So here comes the option of integration runtime. Now we could have used this integration runtime, which is provided to us as a default by Azure or Microsoft, but I wanted to show how we can create a cloud integration runtime and what are the steps involved in it. So let's click on new here. And this time we are interested in Azure integration runtime. So we'll click on that, and we'll say it's a cloud integration runtime. We want to use Microsoft's hardware to do the computation at the database side of the things. And so region is auto resolve. This is a default value. Let it be set to this. And then, so you can see the type here is Azure. Then comes the part where we want to create it. So let's try to create, and let's see how it looks. So it has created the integration runtime for us. And all these options are visible under the Manage tab, which we will see after we have created the pipeline. So now you have configured the linked service. You have configured the integration runtime. Now comes the part, sorry, linked service is not complete. You still have to specify the credentials so that the connection is made to the destination database. So we'll do that. We'll select the subscription. Then we'll select the server name. So server name in our case is Brownback 2020. And the database that I showed you initially is Independence Works. We are using the SQL authentication. And I think the username is server admin 14 2020. And then type in the password. So we will type in the password, and let's see whether the connection is successful or not. Yeah, the connection has been successful. So after we click on create, we would have created a linked service for the destination. Okay, so linked service for the destination has been created. Now it's our job to complete the data set and provide the appropriate properties. So for the data set, as I told you in the beginning, it could be a file or a table. So in this case, this is a table. So we have to select the target table. So the table for us was movie, as we saw initially. Yeah, so I think it's taking from connections store as the default, which means that the schema will be derived from the table. And then we'll click on OK. So here you go, guys. We have the source as well as the sink configured. Now there are some other options here as well. So first of all, let's see how the data set for the sink looks like. You just click on open, and it will open up the data set for you. And you can see that on the left pane, as we are creating the objects, it's putting it in the right bucket. So we created two data sets, and it has put it in the right buckets. We have created a pipeline. As far as integration runtime is concerned, you can see that inside the Manage tab. So you just go into the Manage, and not only integration runtime, you can see the linked services as well. So linked services are these which have been created by us, and then the integration runtime. So you can see that we have 3 integration runtimes which are running. We tried to create one, but we actually skipped out of the steps. So that's why it says unavailable. And one important thing that I wanted to show you is once you click on this self-hosted integration runtime, you can actually get to know the computer name, that is my computer name in this case. So it says that the laptop, some option is running. It's connected to this node. And we saw that initially as well when we launched the service. It was saying that the service is connected to the ADF cloud service, and this option says that the on-premise network or the on-premise laptop is connected to this integration runtime. So we'll click on cancel and come back to the author page. So here is our first pipeline. And so we have covered, so we were seeing some of the properties on the sync page. Yeah, so if you have a requirement where your destination is a store procedure, you can select that, but let's not try to complicate the things. And you have an option of creating the table on the fly as well. So you will select this auto create table option for that. And you have an option to specify a pre-copy script. So in case if you want to do a truncate and load, you can write something like truncate table movie, and then before loading every time it will truncate the data. And these are some of the properties that are needed for performance tuning. Again, we will leave these to default. And then comes the mapping part. Now, mapping can be a crucial part when you are extracting the data from one system to the another. So if you are confident that the column names in the source file and the column names in the source file are exactly equal to the column names in the target table, then you can use something called late binding. You can trust on the ADF to do the job for us and do the exact mapping for us. But if you're not sure whether the column names are equal or not, or the column names are same or not, then you can do the early binding, or you can do the mapping explicitly. So we'll do the mapping explicitly because I'm not entirely sure whether the column names match as far as source and destination is concerned. So I will click on import schemas. So it will try to get the schema from the source file and the target table. And you can see that it has taken the mapping nicely, but for a couple of the columns, it has not taken the mapping because the column names were different. So we can change the column names here. So we can, so year is our, YR is our year column from the source. And I think Rotten Tomato doesn't have a space in the target table, but I think it has a space in the source file. So we will select that. And so you can see you can change the data types as well. So it's entirely up to you if there is a requirement that a date time column is coming. For example, I'm just giving you one example. If there is a requirement that a date time column is coming and you want to retain its data type, then you can specify that data type here. So the mapping is done. Now we are at the point where we want to save the changes or we want to validate the changes. So there are various options that will go through that. So first of all, there is a validate option, which is useful if you want to see if you try to save your changes, the ADF engine will not throw an error. So let's see what we get when we try to validate this. So if there had been an error, you would have seen that on this window. Since in this case, everything has been configured correctly. So it means that the pipeline has not given us any errors. And then there is a concept of debug here. So this debug is similar to the debug to other tools, to other languages. The only difference here is since we have a source and a sink. So only job that this copy data activity is doing is transferring the data. So if we click on this debug, it will actually move the data. And you particularly have to be careful, especially if you're dealing with the UAT environment or the production environment. And if you don't want to move the data as per the requirement, then you have to be careful about that. I think this basically comes into play when you are designing a particular pipeline and there are n number of activities and you are in the development phase and you want to test it out whether this activity works fine or not. So you just have to be careful about this debug option. Then as far as saving the changes is concerned, you have an option called publish all. So what happens if we don't click on publish all and close this window, all your changes will be lost and all the hard work that you've done would lost. So if you want to save the changes on the Azure server, you would need to click on this publish all button here. and you will get an option of the work that you've done in a summarized manner. So what it is, this window is showing is that you created 3 objects. 2 were data sets and 1 was a pipeline, and they have classified correctly, and they've given it a green color, which means that these objects were created just now. Had it been red, it would have meant that those objects are deleted. And if you have changed a particular thing in a particular object, then that particular object will come in a blue color. So it's a nice way to find out what have you done, especially if you have a number of pipelines, if you are changing, doing a massive amount of changes. So we are okay with the changes. We see that the changes are okay. So we'll click on publish. And I think it's publishing for us, and it will take I think a minute or maybe lesser than that. So right now what it's doing is it's saving the changes on the Azure server, and let's see whether it has been published. So yes, so you'll get a pop-up on the top right that the publish completed. And if had there been any error, you would have got a message that the publish was not successful. And the option that you saw here, the number that you saw here would again come as it is. So now the publishing part has been done. So everything is ready for the data movement to start. So let's try to trigger it, or let's try to execute it. So you have 2 options here. One is trigger now, which means that you can trigger this pipeline now, or you have an option of new or edit. So what if we do new or edit? So it will bring up a window for you to schedule the trigger in the future time. So you can you can put it on recurrence basis, or you can specify a particular time here. So it's useful when you want to schedule a trigger. So this particularly comes in handy when you want to perform a daily load. So then you would schedule a trigger based on the requirement, the timings based on the requirement. So you can do that. So we don't want to set a schedule for this. So let's come out of it, and let's close it up, close this window as well. So what we want to do is we want to trigger now. So let's do the trigger now, and we just have to click on this OK button. So the pipeline execution has started. We will go into the monitor tab and see what's going on, because that is the place which will give you the status of the running of the pipeline, or the pipelines that have already been run. So you can see that the option says in progress. And if you have multiple activities inside your pipeline, drilling down and finding out what is happening in the pipeline is important. So that is where you can just click on this first pipeline name, and you can drill a step further into the execution, and you can find it out, which activity is currently running and what's going on with that. So for us, it was only a single copy data activity, and which is currently running, as you can see. And so let's see whether this is successful or not. And there is an important option of, or a useful option of this goggles like icon, where when you click on it, it will bring you a summary of what is going on. So you can see that we had only 1 file to read. So that's why the files read from the source. First of all, it will give you the systems, the type of the systems that you have in source and destination. So we had a file system in the source, and you had an Azure SQL database in the destination. And then it will give you the important information, such as the transfer rate. So it's 10 bytes per second, the rows written, the peak connection, some of the metadata that is quite useful for you. So it's still running. Let's see. I didn't expect this to take this much of time, but let's see. Let's wait for it. In the meantime, any questions, guys? Any queries so far? Is it looking like a rocket science, or is it making sense? Okay. I hope everyone is able to follow. Okay, sure. Cool. So the pipeline has been executed successfully, which means that we would expect the data to go into our target table. So let's check that. But before we do that, let's see what we have in the details window. So again, the same thing. So the throughput that we were seeing when the pipeline was running was 10 byte per second, but I think this throughput is the average throughput, which is 27 byte per second. So if you see that, I mean, as per the requirements, as per the business criteria, if you feel that uh, some of the parameters are, I mean, looking offset here, then you can do some performance tuning on the pipeline, which again, as I said, is an advanced topic. So you can, it's quite useful when you want to set a baseline for a particular pipeline and you want to do the performance tuning on top of it. So let's go into the SSMS window and see whether we've got the data. So we'll select the data. Yeah. So it has transferred the data. I think one of the rows were blank in the source files, and that's why it has inserted a row entry into it. But you can see that the values have been inserted nicely. There were 9 rows, 9 main rows, and all those rows have made their way into the target table. So this is how the pipeline is run. Now we have seen the data movement. What if we want to do some data transformation? I mean, it's seldom the case that you want exactly the same data that is coming from the source. You would want to add some additional columns. You would want to change the data types. You would want to add some computational columns. So for that, we use the data flow. And that is especially used when you want to transform your data from sources to destinations. And an important thing to understand as far as data flow is concerned, so data flow differs in the execution in the sense that when you're executing the data flow, it is using a scaled out cluster of your Spark machines. So what it means is the execution is taken care by the Spark cluster, so which I think is very robust and useful as far as big data is concerned. So based on the properties that you have supplied, it will spin up a Spark cluster and execute the transformation. So you just have to remember that. And when we are using the data flow, there is an important option that you have to enable, especially if you want to see how the data looks like when you're designing the pipeline. And that option is this data flow debug. So once you enable this, it will spin up a Spark cluster for you, so that that Spark cluster will be used for the data previewing when you're developing a particular pipeline. So it normally takes 4 to 5 minutes for this option to for the option to turn on. So I've already done it for you. So make sure that you wait for 4 or 5 minutes if you're doing it on your own. Now the requirement is, let's study about the requirement. So we would want to use the data flow now, but what is the requirement that we are interested in? So now the movement will take place from the SQL table, from one SQL table, the Azure, which is in the Azure database, to the other SQL table. And what we want to do is we want to add a new column into the source, into the data that is coming from the source, and put that into the destination. So considering the scenario in mind, we will now bring up a data flow. So and again, if you have worked in SSIS, this data flow almost is like the data flow that you have in SSIS. It's just that the execution or the working part differs slightly. So you just click on the plus icon here, and then click on the data flow. And so we are now only concerned with or interested in the mapping data flow. So we'll click on that, click on OK. So for this data flow, it's very essential that you have a source and destination. So first of all, we will try to configure the source. So as you would have guessed, so source in this case will be the destination from our first pipeline. So we will use the data set that has already been created for us. So we will use this Azure SQL table destination. And there are some properties here, for example, the schema drift. This comes into play when you add new columns into the table after your configuration is done, after your pipeline designing is done. So, I mean, if there is a requirement that the table will have more columns in the future, then you can use these options. So right now we are really not concerned about that. So we'll just add or configure the source data source here, and you can change the output stream name here as well, but we will leave it to source one. And then there are other options. For example, input. I think we only have 7 minutes left, so I'll just try to be a little quick here. So these are the options that you specify related to the data movement that is happening. So this is isolation level, which is there in SQL Server, and then there is projection. This gives you the option of how many columns are there, what are the data types. Basically gives you the schema. Basically gives you schema information. And then this is again a concept where if you want to do fine tuning, you can use appropriate partition based on the data volume that you have. Then there is an inspect window, which gives you the count of the columns coming from the source. So you have 6 columns here. So that's why it says total of 6. And this is where this option that you clicked on the top will come into picture. So if you want to see the data on runtime, how it looks like, you can use this and it will bring up the data. And meanwhile it is bringing up the data, let's try to add a derived column, because remember what the requirement is. We want to add a new column, and let's add the timestamp. So we will name the column as load date, and we'll supply the expression, proper expression. So we want to know at what time the rows were inserted. So we will use current timestamp, and you can see the output here, but that will take time. So let's not try to see that. And then we are in the canvas. So again, it's a drag and drop data flow. And then again, if you see the data preview here, additional column should come here, which will have a timestamp in it. So let's wait for that. And simultaneously, we can configure the sync. So you can see the data has come up here. So you have 9 rows. And at the end, you have a load date, which is nothing but your current timestamp. Let's now configure the sync. So for sync, we will have to create a new data set because it would be a different table. Another thing I forgot to tell you initially was, as far as data flow is concerned, it only supports Azure data resources or Azure storage. All the other options are grayed out. So if there is a requirement to use data flow, so make sure that you first bring in the data into an Azure blob storage. So we'll quickly configure the sync as well. So we want Azure SQL database. Click on that. Let's give it a name as 2. And the link service, we can use the link service that was already created because the connection remains the same. The database is same. It's just that the table is different. And we would want the table to be movie with dates. Again, the same import schema, and then click on OK. And so our pipeline, our data flow has been set up accurately or correctly. So what we want now is so this data flow, you cannot run it alone, as standalone. It has to be a part of a pipeline. So this is nothing but your activity. So we will go into the first pipeline, drag this data flow. This will act as an activity, and then you can define the flow. So first we want the copy data activity to take place. We want the data to be flown from your source file to the target table, and then use that data into another target table, another SQL table. So we have set up everything. So let's try to publish it. So you can see that the pipeline, now we have made changes to the pipeline. It's coming in blue color, and we have created one data flow and one data set that's coming in green color. So let's try to publish this. Now, if you run this pipeline as part of copy data, you would expect the count to go to double up. So since we had 10 rows, 10 more rows will be inserted. For that purpose, what we will do is we will add a pre-copy script. So we'll add a pre-copy script here. So we'll say truncate table, and I think the table name is movie. Go in here, and then we will have to publish these changes as well. So the publishing is going on right now. Okay, so I think it has been published successfully, so it's time to trigger now. So we will trigger it. And we will go to the monitor tab. So, not sure how to get rid of this. Okay. So here you can see all the executions of your first pipeline. So this is now the second execution, which started at 3:58. Now the first copy activity has been completed successfully. This data flow might take 3 or 4 minutes. Why it is taking 3 or 4 minutes is because it's trying to spin up the clusters that are required to run the or to execute or do the transformations for us. So you just have to remember that the data flow uses Spark clusters for the execution of the various transformations. So it might take time. So it might take 3 minutes. So in the meantime, I just wanted to show you some of the interesting features that we did in Publitix as far as data load is concerned. So you can clearly see that we actually we don't have time. So Shiva, I think we can open the house to everyone to ask their questions, because I think we are almost near 4 o'clock. I just want to wrap it up that we loaded 16 billion rows, whooping 16 billion rows in under 4 hours. So if you want to know the ability or the capability of this ADF tool, you can get a glimpse of by looking at the figures. And this is 121 GB of data, which is in compressed format. And when it was uncompressed, I think it went up to 300 GB. So that was quite fascinating as far as developing this is concerned. So yeah, I think I can, since this, I mean, in the meantime it's running, we can open the house, and if anyone has questions, please feel free to ask.
Lokesh, this is Pawan.
Yeah, hi Pawan.
Yeah, Lokesh, one question for me is like, how can I get only the differential data or incremental data to be transformed onto the destination or the sink? Is there any?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So there is, I would say it's an advanced concept. So if you are making your, designing your first pipeline, it is a little tricky for the rest of the folks to understand. So maybe what we can do is we can, connect offline after this session. There are certain options that we can use. I can give you a little idea of what we used in our case. So we had the source files in an Amazon S3 location, and the files were getting dropped on daily basis. So we used this start time and end time property in the copy data activity to find out which are the latest files. But if you want to, do the incremental load, you can actually do ETL, which means, ELT, which means that you can load the data into the into your target database or the target table, and then you can use the SQL to do that. So it all depends on the requirements. But out of the box, we have this this property called filter time and end date. And in data flow, you have a column, an option of upsert. So you can also use that. I can, quickly show it to you. So you have this option, allow insert, allow delete. So you can use these as well. So it's all based on the requirements, Pawan, I would say. But I can give you the idea what we followed in Publitix, maybe offline.
Yeah, thank. That makes sense to me. Thank you, Sharma. We can connect.
Yeah. Any more questions, please? So let's see whether it was successful. It's still running. So when I tested it, I think it took around 4 minutes. So we might have to wait for another minute. Okay, so as far as if there are no further questions, As far as tutorials are concerned, I will share a couple of links. One is from Udemy, and I mean that course is quite useful. And then there is a lab on GitHub which I can share. So that was part of the certification that I did. So it's quite useful as well. So I'll share these two links. Maybe I mean, forward to Shiva, and he can send it across. So that would be quite useful for you. So at the end, I would say that it's quite an easy tool. It all depends on how much hands-on you're doing it. If you're doing hands-on on regular basis, you can clearly crack the ADF. It's as I said, not rocket science, but I mean,
Okay.
yeah,
Pawan here again. Last question. Do you,
yeah.
I mean, for the alerts and metrics, will that help us in any breakup that happens during my transformation?
Sorry,
The,
can you come again? I didn't get
there is one section here like alerts and metrics. What I can see now on the screen, on the blade, on the
yeah.
left side. So I would like to see if there are any challenges that down one, the fourth option, alerts and.
Oh, alerts and okay.
I want to check that one can help us if any data transformation phase during the phases. So
Yes. Yeah. So these are your metadata options. So for example, if you want to send some alerts, so this the pipeline uses some resources. For example, in this case, it uses data integration units. So if you want to send out some alerts based on those metadata options, you can send that. Yes, so you can always use this if you are running into some kind of problems. If you have certain SLAs that the pipeline should not take more than 1 hour. If it's taking more than 1 hour, then you can set up some alerts and matrices here. So it's used for that.
got it. I will do a POC, Sharma, and I can connect with you if any questions.
Cool. Yeah.
Thank you, Sharma.
Okay. So let's again quickly check. Yeah. So the pipeline has run successfully. So we can quickly see how it went. We already checked the copy data activity. I mean, we checked the details, but the details of the data flow window looks a little different. So you can see that on the right side, on the top right side, it's saying or showing the cluster startup time. This is the time taken for the cluster startup. So that's why it took 4 minutes. I mean, it took, uh, huge time as we expected, because there were only 10 rows, so we wouldn't have expected this much of time. But this is the time that it took for the cluster to start. And then once it was started, only 12 seconds were used or took to load the data from the source to the destination. So let's quickly go back to the tables and let's see whether we have got the data. So first of all, the first table should have 10 rows because we added the truncate command. So that was success. You can see it has 10 rows. And then if you're not able to see my screen, so I can maybe take it up. So you can see only 10 rows were there. And the second point is you now have the load date appended at the end. So this is the time at which the execution took place. So both of the processes were successful, and that is how we have our first pipeline. So yeah, so just wrapping it up. Again, as I said, you can always ping me, and we can discuss more on the nuances of a pipeline. Over
Sure,
to you,
Lokesh.
Shiva.
Yeah, thanks very much, Lokesh. This is one of the finest and very interactive session, I would say, and it was very detailed and well planned session. So, team, I would request every one of you to please avail this opportunity. Not only being a participant in the brown bag sessions, but the forum is always open for all of you. In case if you think that you have a skill set, and if you're good at teaching, and if you're good at training, and if you have a certain topic on any technology that is a emerging one or an existing one on which you want to share a knowledge with all the team members, so this is the forum we have. So we have slots available with L&D team. So anytime you can reach out to Winwire at winwirelearning at winwire.com by sharing your nominations, and that's how I can help you in planning the calendar for these sessions. Okay, and for more updates, please keep watching Winwire Facebook page and also the emails from Winwire Learning. And I'll be sharing these recordings of the session in our Facebook, Winwire Facebook page today. So in case if you want to pass on these links to any of your team members who couldn't attend the session, that will be really of a great help. So thank you very much, people. Satya, sir, over to you.
So thanks, Lokesh. I think this is a great coverage, as our colleagues were saying, and it's kind of a hands-on feeling that everybody got today, and some of the wonderful features that have been showed on the ADF part. So I think people will take away with some of these learnings, and anybody wants to connect anytime, we always have Microsoft Teams. Please connect with Lokesh, or keep assimilating your knowledge. That is very, very important. Having knowledge is one aspect, and then assimilating the knowledge and sharing with other people, so that this way you can sharpen your skills in your respective technologies. So as requested by the LNE team, everybody who has the abilities that they want to share knowledge, please connect with Shiva, and try to do this more and more often. This brown bag sessions every Friday, we have time slot available, so please be part of it and share your knowledge. That way it's all about learning for all of us. Thank you very much. A wonderful participation, great interaction, and wonderful content and coverage, hands-on experience, Lokesh. Appreciate your time and efforts towards it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
And everybody,
Thank you, Lokesh.
everybody, please stay safe and healthy. And as I said, please participate in the WinFit initiative. It's for yourself. Take care of yourself. Stay fit while you stay indoors. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Satya. Thank you, Lokesh.
Bye, all. Bye, Lokesh.